Welcome back to XRP Insider, the channel that keeps you ahead of every major move in the XRP and Ripple space. I'm your host, and let me tell you, this has been one of the most packed, most exciting, most downright historic weeks we have seen in a long time. So much has happened that I pulled every major story together into one single video just to save you time and make sure you don't miss a single thing. We're going to go through all of it together, one by one, so you walk away from this video with a crystal clear picture of what is actually happening, what it means for XRP, and what you absolutely need to be paying close attention to right now. Grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's get into it because this week has been absolutely stacked with news that matters. From Wall Street infrastructure moves to central bank partnerships, from stablecoin explosions to real-world asset milestones. It is all here, and it is all connected. Let's go. Let's kick things off with something that a lot of people may have slept on, but absolutely should not have. The New York Stock Exchange owner and OKX are reportedly seeking to launch perpetual futures tied to oil. Now, on the surface, that might sound like it has nothing to do with XRP. But stay with me here because this gets really interesting really fast. OKX has already launched RLUSD and XRP infrastructure on their platform. What this potentially sets up is RLUSD as the go-to stablecoin and collateral rail for oil perpetuals on OKX, with XRP sitting as the core liquidity bridging asset on the XRP ledger side when those transaction flows touch tokenized oil or other real-world assets. Think about what that means. You have the New York Stock Exchange, one of the most powerful financial institutions on the planet, potentially plugging into infrastructure that includes XRP. This is not a small story. This follows massive demand on Hyperliquid, where oil perpetuals recently cleared a jaw-dropping $1.6 billion in 24-hour volume. The NYSE wants a piece of that action, and the infrastructure they're reaching for includes XRP. That is a very big deal, and you need to pay attention to it. Now let's shift over to the United Kingdom because Ripple has been very busy there as well. Ripple just hosted a high-level roundtable at the Innovate Finance Global Summit, and the conversations coming out of that event are exactly the kind of thing that signals where the financial world is heading. The key themes: stablecoin uncertainty is still acting as a barrier to wider adoption. Digital asset collateral needs urgent regulatory action, and the UK's digital securities sandbox is moving slower than many in the industry had hoped. So Ripple stepped in, and that is not an accident. With the UK's regulatory regime for crypto assets set to launch in 2027, and the digital securities sandbox now entering its go-live phase, the UK has made real progress. But Ripple and many others believe that progress needs to happen faster and with more strategic focus. The UK enters this moment from a strong position: deep capital markets, a globally recognized legal system, a concentration of fintech talent, unlike almost anywhere else in the world. But having a strong foundation only gets you so far if you don't move with intention and speed. What makes Ripple's involvement in the UK conversation so important is the global perspective they bring to the table. The US, the European Union, Singapore, and the UAE have all taken very different approaches to crypto and stablecoin regulation, and each of those journeys has produced valuable lessons. The UK has the rare advantage of being able to observe what worked, what didn't, and what caused unnecessary friction in those markets. Ripple brought together regulators, established financial institutions, and crypto-native firms at Innovate Finance specifically to tackle the central question that every serious financial hub is wrestling with right now: how do you accelerate the development and adoption of digital assets in a way that is competitive, proportionate, and internationally relevant? The fact that Ripple is the company in that room helping shape that conversation speaks volumes about where they stand in the eyes of global regulators and institutions. This is not a company on the sidelines. This is a company actively building the future of finance. And speaking of building, let's talk about the Ripple Prime and EDX Markets integration, because this one is a massive, massive development. Ripple Prime is now officially integrating with EDX Markets and EDXM International. This partnership is designed to bridge the gap for institutional clients by giving them seamless access to deep spot trading and perpetual futures liquidity, all within one unified, capital-efficient framework. So you're talking about spot XRP trading and futures perpetuals liquidity brought together under one roof for institutional players. Now here's where it gets really exciting. Let's talk about who is actually connected to EDX Markets, because this list is going to make your jaw drop. We're talking Citadel Securities, Fidelity Digital Assets, Charles Schwab, Paradigm, Sequoia Capital, and Virtu Finance. These are not small names. These are some of the most powerful financial firms on Wall Street. And they are all connected to the infrastructure that Ripple just integrated with. Wall Street is setting up, they are getting their pieces in place, and XRP is sitting right in the middle of all of it. Ripple made this announcement on May 19th, so if you missed it and you want the full deep dive, go back to that date on this channel and I have a ton of content breaking it all down for you. But I do want to keep moving because there is so much more to cover, and every single story this week is building on the last one. Let's talk about RLUSD, because the numbers right now are genuinely incredible. The Visa on-chain analytics dashboard is now showing RLUSD transaction volume absolutely exploding and approaching the $1 billion monthly mark. You can actually go check this yourself. Head over to the Visa on-chain analytics tool, go under supply, remove all other stable coins, and just pull up RLUSD. What you'll see is remarkable. Back in January of 2026, RLUSD was already clocking over 1.2 billion on Ethereum alone, and May is shaping up to be another strong month. The growth curve is steep, it is consistent, and it is accelerating. This is not a stablecoin that is standing still, and it gets even better. RLUSD just crossed $1.34 billion in 24-hour transaction volume. $1.34 billion in a single day. Analyst Chad Steingraber pointed this out and also highlighted that Ripple is actively minting RLUSD at a steady and significant clip, with transfer volume sitting at around $157 million. And when you look at the individual transfers happening, we're talking 2 million, 2 million, 2 million, 1.5 million. These are not small retail transactions. These are institutional scale movements of value. RLUSD is not just a stablecoin on paper. It is being used, it is being moved, and it is building serious momentum in the marketplace. The question now is, what does the next few months look like as adoption continues to scale? And based on everything we are seeing, the answer looks very promising. Now let's pivot to real-world assets, because this is a space that XRP Insider has been tracking closely, and for good reason. Luke Judges from Ripple recently made a statement that caught a lot of attention. He said he is looking forward to speaking in Istanbul about the progress they've made supporting the XRP ledger's evolution into a fully fledged financial platform, now with $4.8 billion in real-world assets and counting. 4.8 billion, let that sink in. And when you head over to realworldassets.xyz and check the latest data, you'll see that the XRP ledger has now taken the 4th spot in total real-world assets, moving past BNB, which is actually losing real-world assets as the XRP ledger is gaining them. Ethereum and Canton also saw slight declines this week. The XRP ledger is climbing, and it is climbing fast. The next milestone? Cracking the 3rd spot, which would require gaining roughly 14 billion more. That is a lot of ground. But the trajectory right now is moving in exactly the right direction. Here is a brand new story that I honestly had not even made a separate video on yet. And it is a big one. Ripple has just participated in a $6 million funding round for Squid, a cross-chain platform that works alongside Axelar to enable native-to-native asset swaps across more than 1,000 decentralized applications and DeFi services. Now here is what makes this so significant. XRP serves as the native gas token for all applications on the XRP ledger EVM sidechain where Squid operates. Squid enables assets like USDC to flow in and out from Ethereum and other ecosystems, creating real cross-chain liquidity and genuine new DeFi utility. And it gets better. RLUSD is also set to become interoperable with stablecoins from other chains, which opens the door to entirely new use cases in payments, lending, and developer adoption across multiple ecosystems. This was announced just a few hours before we recorded this, and it is already looking like one of the more strategically important moves Ripple has made in the DeFi space. What makes Ripple's participation in the Squid funding round particularly powerful is how deliberate and calculated it is. Squid supports the XRP ledger as one of its core integrated chains, sitting alongside Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin, Stellar, and Cosmos. And here is the key technical detail that sets this apart from other cross-chain solutions. There are no wrapped tokens, no synthetic representations. You get actual native-to-native swaps. When you use Squid to move assets, you're getting the real native asset on the destination chain, not some wrapped version that introduces counterparty risk. Ripple backing a cross-chain router that makes the XRP ledger more accessible to the broader crypto universe aligns perfectly with their long-standing push for interoperability. This is not a random investment. This is Ripple strategically building the on-ramps and bridges that will connect XRP to every major ecosystem in crypto. Over 1,000 apps could eventually plug into this. Think about what that means for XRP utility and adoption at scale. Let's keep the momentum going because we've also got a massive development out of Singapore and beyond. Franklin Templeton's Benji tech platform has connected with the XRP ledger for on-chain SG Benji minting, and DBS Exchange has added RLUSD swaps. On top of that, DigiFT, which holds the monetary authority of Singapore license for distributing real-world assets, is handling distribution for Franklin Templeton's tokenization rollout, which is scaling across Asia. This is Franklin Templeton, one of the largest asset managers in the world, building directly on XRP ledger infrastructure. The partnership between Franklin Templeton and DigiFT signals that institutional tokenization in Asia is moving from pilot phase into real deployment. And when that tokenization infrastructure is built on the XRP ledger, every transaction, every settlement, every flow of value runs through the ecosystem we are all invested in. Asia is not sleeping on this. They are moving, and they are moving on XRP rails. Now let's talk about something that has been incredibly encouraging, the ETF inflow numbers. As of this recording, XRP ETFs in the United States are approaching $900 million in total net inflows across the 7-spot XRP ETF products. 900 million, and that is just in the United States, not counting global XRP ETF products. And here is what makes this even more striking. Over the past week, Bitcoin ETFs saw outflows of $1.4 billion, and Ethereum ETF funds also bled capital. Meanwhile, XRP ETFs pulled in $42 million in net inflows over that same period. Institutional investors are buying XRP and Solana right now while rotating out of Bitcoin and Ethereum. That is a significant shift in institutional sentiment, and it is something that every serious XRP investor should be tracking very carefully. The money is telling a story, and the story it is telling looks very good for XRP. And then there is the Australia story, which I covered in detail on May 20th on this channel, but absolutely needs to be mentioned again because it is that important. Ripple and Chainlink collaborated with ZeroCap to demonstrate how RLUSD can power 24/7 settlement of Australia's tokenized government instruments. Kirk Stokes, sales director at Ripple, confirmed that this was Australia's first tokenized treasury on the XRP ledger with RLUSD as the settlement layer. This happened through Project Acacia, a collaborative research initiative led by the Reserve Bank of Australia and the Digital Finance CRC. The participants included Hedera, Ripple, Redbelly, and RLUSD. And the fact that a central bank-led research initiative chose the XRP ledger as its underlying infrastructure for tokenized government bonds is extraordinarily significant. Because once you start connecting central banks, Australia, the United States, Japan, the United Kingdom, through shared tokenized bond infrastructure, you are literally building the new global financial system. And right now, that system is being built on XRP rails. One more thing worth mentioning before we get to price. Ripple just made the top 16 on a list of the top 50 disruptors right now. And here is what stood out to me when I went through that list. Ripple is the only company on that list specifically categorized under the new money label, as in blockchain and tokenization infrastructure. Most of the other companies on that list are AI or retail or consumer applications. Ripple is the lone representative of the new financial infrastructure movement. That tells you something about how the broader business and technology world is now viewing Ripple, not as a scrappy crypto startup, but as a genuine, serious infrastructure disruptor that is reshaping how value moves around the world. When a publication puts together a list of the top 50 companies shaking up the global economy, and Ripple is on it as the face of new money, that is a statement, that is validation, and it is coming at exactly the right time. Now let's be real with you about the price action, because here at XRP Insider, we always keep it honest. The chart is not looking great right now, and there is no point in pretending otherwise. We did break through some resistance to the downside, and the key level everyone is watching is that $1.30 support zone. If that holds, we could see some relief. But if we lose support around the 125 to 127 range, technical analysts like Chart Nerd have pointed to the possibility of a move down toward the $15 level. And if things got really bad, potentially even the 70 to 90 cent range that Chart Nerd has referenced before. The 130 level is the critical guardrail right now following the post-clarity markup high we saw at 150. Nobody knows for certain how the weekend plays out. Some people would love to see XRP cheaper so they can accumulate more. Others who have been in this for a long time are hoping price holds and moves higher. Both perspectives are valid, and wherever you fall, we will keep you fully up to date right here. Look, no matter where the price goes short term, the fundamentals this week have been nothing short of extraordinary. The NYSE and OKX oil futures setup, Ripple's role in shaping UK digital finance policy, Wall Street giants plugging into Ripple Prime through EDX Markets, RLUSD exploding past 1.34 billion in daily volume, the XRP ledger climbing the real-world asset rankings, Ripple investing in Squid for native cross-chain swaps, Franklin Templeton building on XRP infrastructure in Asia, Australia's central bank choosing RLUSD and the XRP ledger for its first tokenized government bond settlement, and XRP ETFs pulling in 42 million, while Bitcoin and Ethereum bled. This is a fundamentally different XRP story than we were telling even 6 months ago. The ecosystem is growing, the institutions are arriving, the infrastructure is being built, and if you want to stay fully caught up with every development in XRP, tokenization, and the broader crypto market, this is the channel. 4 brand new videos every single day. I have got you covered. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for the likes, the comments, and all the incredible support. It genuinely means everything. Have an amazing weekend, and I will see you in the next one.